Well, I think what most people in the Conservative Party realise, and they're right, is that they need a unity candidate, someone who can bring together different parts of the party, who can help the party unite to tackle the economic crisis and to tackle an increasingly confident and assertive Labour Party. The challenge is that there is no obvious unity candidate. People have history. We've just come out of quite a bloody internal Conservative leadership election, where one half the party spent a lot of time throwing mud at the other side, where Liz Truss's supporters were saying nasty things about Rishi Sunak and vice versa. So it's quite hard to it's hard to imagine that someone like Rishi Sunak is suddenly going to be able to unite the party. The same goes for Boris Johnson, who was just ousted by his party. He may still be popular with lots of voters, he may still be popular with Conservative members, but it's, again, hard to imagine that he is the person who's going to unify. Lots of people want a general election. I think that's something Labour's calling for, and of course, lots of members of the public might expect that that's what happens when a prime minister who's just been appointed then has to suddenly leave. But I don't see a super clear pathway to that. I think if you look at the incentives, your average Conservative MP would look at the polls right now and expect to lose their seat. So it's not clear to me why a Conservative backbencher in the current climate would vote for a general election. And that is the only mechanism by which it would happen, because constitutionally, we don't need to have one for another year and a half or so. And the size of the Conservative majority means that that it's going to be very hard for Parliament to force it unless Conservative MPs believe it is in their interests. So I think what could change that is if there is a new leader of the Conservative Party who fancies their chances, and if the polls suddenly seem favourable towards them. But given the size of the Labour lead at the moment, given the economic situation and the difficult winter that we are currently entering into, it's hard to imagine that there's going to be a scenario where the Conservatives suddenly regain a strong poll position, one that's strong enough to want to go into an election which will almost certainly destroy, or at best still chip away at their 80 seat, now less than 80 seat strong majority. If the new Conservative leader believes that they can take control of the energy crisis, that they can make sure that lights stay on this winter, that heating stays on this winter, and that the cost of living crisis is dealt with, that people feel they have more money in their pockets by the time of the next election, I think that's the best they can hope for. And maybe in that scenario, some members of the public will be willing to forgive the Conservatives for their present chaos if the economy is in a different place by the time of the next election. That is a gamble. It's not favorable conditions for whoever the new leader will be, and you can understand why people might not choose. I certainly don't envy whoever has that job over the next few weeks.